My name is Kirsten, not Nora, from Nora's Macarons. And Nora is my daughter, and when she was 8 years old, she wanted to learn how to make macarons. And I didn't think anything about it, except I wanted to support my kid and to do something what she wanted to do. And that quickly turned into a huge frustration in our whole house. And as a mom who was looking for a deeper connection with her kid, I kind of dug into that relationship, and she started making macarons beautifully. She became a little salesperson in the community. We set up markets. I was her momager, and we developed a really sweet relationship until she was old enough that she decided it was time for her to go on and do something more exciting like ballet, and she became a classically trained ballerina. She's 16 now, and she's still a huge inspiration behind Nora's Macarons and everything that I do. That I would never change the name to Kirsten's Macarons. It's just always been about Nora, and it will always be about Nora. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. Like I said, we started making macarons in the early ages. Just a little girl Nora was, and I was a photographer trying to get a business going there. And I thought, oh, well, she can make these really pretty cookies, and I can take the pictures, and I can be her little manager. And that's kind of how things went. But why macarons? That is the thing that they just captured me, and I'm wondering if maybe it's not macarons for you, maybe it's something else. But I'm going to share with you why macarons captured me, why they've held me obsessed for 7 years, why it's the only thing I know how to bake. It's the one thing that I would make over and over and over again. As I talk to you about macarons tonight, I'm actually going to do a demonstration and show you how soothing and satisfying they can be. I've been teaching for several years, and something that I find that people are very intimidated by macarons. So this is going to be something a little bit more casual. I just want you to chill, relax, pour yourself a cold drink. I'm going with Diet Coke tonight. And just enjoy what I'm going to share with you. You don't have to watch, but you can listen, and you don't have to listen, but you can watch. Either way, I have different camera angles that I'm going to use just because I really do want you guys to get into the real satisfying parts of it. It's nothing too official. I'm not like, Disney rated over here, but we're getting there. We'll get there. Let's see if there's anything that I want. Again, I want you guys to enjoy this evening, and maybe after tonight, just be inspired to try macarons. The thing with macarons, and I don't know if I can start with the basics, I'm told that there's quite a range of bakers who have joined this community, so I don't want to assume that anyone knows anything about macarons. And maybe someone knows more. So that's what's really great about these breakout sessions, is that you guys can talk and kind of get to know each other in a more personal level. Like I said, macarons are the only thing I know how to make. Very early on, when I was learning about macarons and how complicated they can be, I realized not a lot of people were doing it. I couldn't find any in my immediate area that I could taste and compare mine to. And so that to me was an indication that my little pocket in the world needed macarons. Now that may not be the same in your pocket of the world. There are places that, well, if you were to come here in this little pocket right now, I could give you a list of probably 7 different places in my small little radius that make macarons. But I found very early on that there weren't a lot of people doing it, and so there was a need for it. And then we would have people try our macarons, and they would say, oh, I don't like macarons, but yours are delicious, right? Everybody says that all the time. But whether it was true or not, it was enough for me to feel like we needed more, right? So macarons were something that we went with. Now, there's 3 different types of macarons. There's Swiss, French, and Italian. Did you guys know that? I don't know, you'll have to let me know in the comments or in the breakout sessions if you knew that there was actually 3 different types. I call it like the Goldilocks and the 3 bears. There's this one's too easy, there's this one's too hard, and then there's this one that's just right. Make sure I get a good angle. You guys can't even see how green that is. Ooh. We did do camera angles for this. We didn't do lighting for the camera angles. That's okay. So what I prefer, so the different methods are based on the meringue that you use, and in the method that I use the Italian meringue. So the French meringue is just whipped up egg whites and dry raw sugar. The Swiss method, you actually cook the eggs before you start whipping them in the sugar. And then the Italian method, you add the cooked sugar to the whipping meringue. So it's 3 different methods. The Italian method is more complicated, is the most, of the 3 methods, I think it has the most steps. And I think people are most intimidated by the Italian method, which was actually another reason why I decided to make Italian macarons. Because not only were there not a lot of people doing the macarons, there were even less people doing the Italian method. The French method is probably the most commonly used in homes, and then I think in bakers. Well, I'm not going to say what's most commonly used because I don't really know, but I will say that I think more people are using French than Italian. So I chose to make macarons. I chose to make the hardest kind. I figured if I'm going to do it, I need to really do it. So that's why I dove into the only thing I know how to make. Of course, I learned how to make buttercreams. I had to learn how to make buttercreams and curds and ganaches, and you just Google that stuff, right? And I can find some good recipes, and I can point you in good recipe directions. But so the Italian method, I used an Italian meringue, and then this really thick, dense almond flour and powdered sugar. And we mix that together. I'm going to do it one more time. So I'm doing 2 different colors, which 2 colors into one method of macaron, or into one batch of macarons, is another thing that it took me a long time to learn and perfect how to do. So let's see. Developing techniques. Now today you guys are gonna break out and you're gonna have an opportunity to ask me all kinds of questions about macarons. You can really ask me anything. I invite you to ask me something that you wouldn't be able to ask Google or somewhere else or find on YouTube. I give a lot of information. I do a lot of teaching. I share a lot of things on Instagram, and so do so many bakers. So like probably some of my most popular questions are, do you age your egg whites? What else? How do you fix hollow shells? There's those taboo questions. You can ask whatever you want to ask. Keep in mind that there's a lot of answers out there and a lot of people saying a lot of different things. A lot of the things that I've learned have been based on my experience and my opinion, and it's important that you learn those things on your own as well, no matter what it is you're doing. If you're making macarons or if you're baking cakes or whatever, if you're the social media expert, find the one thing that you like doing and then use that, do that one thing over and over. Develop those skills. So the thing that I learned a lot about macarons is that you can have a recipe. I can give you my recipe. People ask for my recipe all the time. And if I give you a recipe, though, it's not gonna...
It's not really in the camera.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't.
There you go, sorry. I can give you a recipe, but the techniques are something that I can't give you. That's something you have to develop on your own. And when it comes to macarons, there are definitely techniques that will keep you... this is the macaronage stage, by the way. I'm just going to go around a few more times. Okay. So I'm doing 2 colors in one batch. And it's going to be like a swirl kind of color, but 2 greens is actually what I'm doing. And macarons are really picky. Okay, well, macarons and why they are so mysterious. I mean, people are often really just scared of macarons and intimidated by them. And I get questions like, do you bake your almond flour? Do you, like with macarons, a lot of the elements that are around you are what affect good macarons or not. So humidity is a really big thing. I live in a really dry climate, which makes macarons very happy. Yes, I think my macarons have feelings and personality. Is that a normal thing in the baking world? Sometimes when we're baking late at night, we get really personal and exciting with each other. So, developing your techniques, it's really something that will keep you going. So the things that can fail in macarons are your ovens can fail. They can make your macarons difficult. And the humidity and the air around you can make it difficult. And then everything else is based on skill. So when I talk with my students about what did I do wrong, I'm always telling them mostly that the skills that they're developing will just continue to get better and better as they keep on going. So it's not always the great answer, but since I've been making macarons for so long, and that's the only thing that I've done, I've really been able to see that those skills can be sharpened over time and continue to be stronger and stronger. I'm doing the macaronage right now. Oh, sorry. I'm doing the macaronage right now, which is the process of folding in the whipped up egg whites, my meringue, and my almond flour and my powdered sugar. So this was a really dense, thick paste, and I'm just slowly scraping and folding in the white, delicate, fluffy meringue. I'm doing it in 2 parts, kind of like I'm tempering the eggs. So I'm getting half of the meringue ready for the next part. And then this batter will go in its own piping bag, and I'm, doing 2 colors in one. So when it comes to making macarons, you can't just say, okay, I'm gonna mix it and then split it up and then do 2 different colors. They don't really like it like that. They like to make you do things difficultly. So 2 colors is definitely difficult. I took probably 3 or 4 years where I would just study and focus on how to make the perfect 2-colored batch macarons. It was tough. Meringue is very, very, and I think Italian meringue is probably the most stable. Like I said before, you're cooking your sugar to get that meringue, and that cooked sugar actually adds stability to your meringue. So that's something that I learned about Italian macarons that kind of made sense to me. Like I could see the process of cooking sugar. What do you do that? You do that for caramels, or you do that for hard candies, and it makes it chewier or crunchier. So for me, I thought, okay, well, if I'm cooking the sugar to add it to the meringue, and if you make like Italian meringue buttercream or Italian meringues, you can make Italian macarons. The meringue is really the most hardest process. And the macaronage is what I'm continuing to do. I've added the second half, and it's just a process that is so satisfying. I love getting in the bowl and just putting it all into one. I see the color, I see the bright white. I'm looking for one solid color. Hollow shells, people want to ask about hollow shells a lot, and something that I learned, if a macaron has a hollow shell, it doesn't mean it's a bad macaron. Sometimes people want really, really full macarons, and there's certain recipes and there's different techniques to have that. I like my macaron to be crispy on the outside. I like it to be chewy on the inside. I don't like it to be dense on the inside. So in order to get that chewiness, I need to have a pocket of air gap, but I also need to have some flesh in it. And I'll show you more about macarons. Different things I love about them. Let's see. All right, one thing else I learned, if you guys, about macarons, it's best to just clean up as you go and keep your space as organized as possible, because so many things can go wrong. So many things can take away or add to that if your space is organized. I remember one time I was kind of in a hurry doing dishes, and I realized I didn't dry my bowl out completely between batches, and I dumped my egg whites in there, and I could see the splash of water when I did, because I hadn't dried the bowl out. And I thought, oh well, it's gonna work, and they totally damaged my macarons. And so things I learned the hard way are like, get organized and do it. When you do macarons, like really focus on what you're doing. So now I've got my two colors here. All right. We're going to get to the next most soothing part of making macarons, which is the piping part. And this is going to be extra fun because I have a really dark green and I have a really bright green. And we're going to pipe them into one bag.